I actually thought this was going to be way more aggressive, but I will say in this less bloody and like monstrous approach, legitimately, I actually like this werewolf dude. Was his name mentioned in the chapter? I actually think this guy's pretty cool. I'm absolutely not gonna lie. As well as there was confirmation definitely that like characters are gonna have like way above human physical stats in this series. 'Cause I was very curious as to how powerful the humans were gonna be. Because granted, like shonen, and I don't know fiction and a lot of the time, but like shonen, especially battle shonens, and this is clearly gonna be a battle shonen. But it's it's one of those things with them, characters having powers and abilities, and you can look at something obviously like look at like start of the series Naruto to like how ridiculous power levels and stuff are now, or like Dragon Ball. Literally 99% of like big shonen battle series, like they usually go like that. I'm not against it whatsoever, but I was just curious as if Red Hood was going to keep their characters way weaker, but there's absolutely zero chance in that happening after this chapter. So the girl, like the witch, I don't think her name was mentioned. I'm pretty sure that the big werewolf he had his name dropped in this chapter, but I don't think the witch was. But like the werewolf, I thought he was gonna be like this big calamity that was like the witch was gonna be like controlling or something, because they had said that like, oh, one of the ideas about werewolves is that they were created maybe by witches' curses or spells, and so I was like, oh well, maybe the werewolves are like gonna be minions of the witches, and the witches are like a higher level threat. But seemingly, at least from this chapter, it looks like the werewolves are at least somewhat, I would assume, on equal grounds. I mean, this witch seems powerful, but at least from this chapter, I don't think that she could take this werewolf dude. I mean, he's gigantic. He has to be like at least 100 plus feet tall, 150, 200 feet. Because like we see him next to the trees, and he's way bigger than these trees. And he's just towering over everyone and these buildings and stuff too. But you have just some general conversations. The witch knows about Grimm, which is also, again, really interesting. What did they call her? 100 Cannon Grimm or something, her title, I would assume. Which, really cool. I thought that was pretty badass. A character title can really add flavor to them, because there's like, you can get ones that are like kind of plain. And I give an example. Like when you see ones in like the Japanese, and they call them like Shinigami, God of Death, or like a Death Reaper or something. It's used like it's one of those ones that's just badass if you tag it to the right character, but it can be used very very sparingly, like or like on a character that cool, but it doesn't have as much weight as like you'd think it would. A character, I can give an example, Aragorn from Fairy Tail. He was like super early series bad guy, and he wasn't that powerful really, even at the time. Like he wasn't really that strong, getting blocked by like base Natsu and well, Natsu didn't have anything above base, but you know what I mean. Early series opponent that didn't take a lot of effort to defeat. He had somewhat of a battle, but like it wasn't like by the skin of his teeth defeating him. Like Natsu was still like up and doing stuff. It was just his storm mail was a problem. But anyway, before I rant any further about any other series, but like 100 cannons, that actually sounds pretty cool, because it's just like the idea of her just probably weaponizing relatively anything, I would guess. Grabbing a bell and just smacking up a werewolf with it, and in other ways. But like the big werewolf comes in and he's like, oh, don't worry humans, I'm not here to cause you any problems, I'm just here to check up on my sons. Which is like, that was like super intriguing just at the opening point of like this chapter, because I mentioned in my previous reviews that it looked like the werewolves are going to be way more kind of like heartless, like they were all about murdering and eating humans. They're going to be way more malefic and evil. But like this dude, I don't know if maybe just because he's so old and powerful that maybe he just doesn't really like it's so second nature to him. It's like it's kind of like this is an easy example. It's like before you turn 21, and it's like drinking is like, can get kind of crazy, but then once you get 21 and you're able to do it whenever you want, it becomes more of way more of a kind of just like casual thing, or something that you just you don't kind of go nearly as overboard as often. And this guy's probably just like, yeah, whatever, these humans, I could kill them if I want to, but I don't have to. I'm here to do a wellness checkup on my boys. But they're both dead, and I was like, oh well, maybe he's gonna get really mad when he hears that they've been killed, but he sees Velu and he's like saying how, oh no, you slayed my sons, and I can sense or smell signs of like fear and regret on them. So you must be a warrior. I admire that. And I'm just like, damn, this guy's kind of cool. Like he's odd, but it's badass that he is. Like he probably understood. Like, oh yeah, my son's probably got. They probably got a little bit. And I'm guessing he's got way more than the two. Just get, assuming. But he's just like, oh well, I'm pretty sure that you guys they probably got a little out of hand, didn't take their opponent seriously enough, and weren't cautious enough, and then ran into this dude. And I think that he's looking at it more of like, oh, this guy defeated them, like this kid, and he's got a lot of potential. Maybe he'll become like a powerful person. Maybe he's like one of those dudes who really wants to have a good fight. Like he's potentially like, I've gotten so old that there aren't many people to contend with me anymore, and maybe he's just bored. That could be it. But he goes for like it's like a big like claw attack, a big slam on Grim, and she blocks it. And that's one of the things that I was mentioning. Like earlier in the chapter, she's using like this chain. Let me see what the chain is called. Chain of it has a super regular name. Chain of Sapience. That's not a, I don't know if Sapience is really a commonly used word, so I have to retract that statement. But she's using it as like, this chain whip, and that's already like, obviously like above a normal human, but it's nothing kind of too insane other than her jump all the way up there. But then she's like wrapping up this big metal ball that's definitely like pushing up into higher levels. But when he goes to attack her, and you see like the shockwave like bending trees and stuff, and obviously he's gigantic and he's gonna be putting his weight into it, and she like doesn't die from it, but she also blocks it. Like she's like holding her ground, like still, like she's forced down to a knee, but I understand that. But she doesn't look like she's like, oh man, this is taking everything to block it. Like she doesn't have like that veins popping out or anything too insane. It just looks like, she's putting in some work. And that's a sign, obviously, that the characters in the series are going to be above just being regular or like above peak human. And the witch mentions that like the magic spell on her is about to wear off. I'm guessing that it has to do with her whole changing forms. Like, is she permanently like young or something, and she has to use magic to gain her adult body? Who knows exactly how that's going to work. But I really liked the werewolf interaction between Velu. That was my favorite part of this chapter, because he's just talking to him, and he's like, he's just like, the last wisp of my soul's sons linger on you. They smell of regret, so that means that you're a warrior. And like Velu picks up a hoe or a rake, and he's just like, oh, like the werewolf just yells at him, like literally just his voice is like pushing him back, and he's like, you're gonna face me with like just like a farmer's tool? That's pretty brave of you. I like you. And I was just like, this is an interaction I didn't see coming whatsoever. And he's even like giving him props. He's like defeating a werewolf at such a young age, and obviously Velu doesn't have any of the experience or crazy powers and stuff. And he's like, that's really impressive. So out of respect for your accomplishments and how brave you're being, I'm not gonna eat you today. And he's like, I want you to grow up and become a powerful warrior. So if I eat you, it'll be worth it. Again, really cool. Like this is a pretty interesting character just right off the bat. I know, like, I like Velu so far. I like Grim. I like this witch. They're all interesting, but like this werewolf dude is by far the most interesting character in this. Oh, he did name drop the witch. Her name is Cinderella, and I think she called. He has like this big name, like it's lichen something. It's something to do with the word lichen. I'll have to look for it, or someone can drop a comment. It's kind of funny that the character that currently is my most interested in the series, I don't have his name. I guarantee you I'll have his name down the next time he shows up, because whenever I get into one of those scenarios where it's like, man, I really wish I remember that guy's name, I'll end up looking for it later, and just talking about it will build up enough of an event that it will pretty much brand itself into my memory. It's like one of those things where it's like, oh, you're not going to forget specific things if there's certain events tied to them. But then the witch just decides to use the spell. She just takes out her wand and does this upside down chrysanthemum, and pretty much just drops this big firework looking spell and just sets all of the houses on fire, destroys the hamlet, and brings up something about this thing called the Red List. My guess is the Red List is like the hunter guilds, like they're most wanted, probably like the most dangerous people on their whole setup, because she's like telling her that's like, oh, the Red List is moving. So do as much as you want, but we're going to keep getting stronger. And then and then eventually there's going to be too many of us for you guys to be able to handle. And so you see like the hamlet's destroyed. The people that are accounted for are getting out of there. They mentioned that they're all going their own separate ways, trying to find new places to live. There are people that have no idea where they are, what happened to them, so probably people that have died. And that's when it works into, obviously, Velu going into the Hunters Guild. And this is where his story starts. This is where it's all going to really begin. And I thought this was really cool, because there's been a couple other series where it's like what would be normally the first chapter is extended in the first couple chapters. And I think like this is probably one of the first ones that it feels really good in the way that it was done, because it's all ultimately making you understand about Velu joining the Hunters Guild. We haven't even got there yet, and this is 5 chapters in, and it's just more about it's more about Velu's origin in how it was. And I think just this really neat setup of like, oh yeah, he's beating these werewolves, maybe he's getting good at this, and then this overwhelming werewolf and witch just show up, and it's just like, yeah, you guys aren't going to do much here. I'd be curious to know how well Grimm would have done if she had, like, if she just went into her adult form, because obviously she's been using it, and I assume there's a time limit on it, or like a power output that she has, like some form of like limited amount of energy and attack she can do while in it before it wears off. But anyway, other than that, though, solid chapter. Like I said, I really like this werewolf dude. He's pretty cool. And if we can get some more, like, really interesting villains like that, where it's, like, this dude who clearly has, like, this grander picture of things and of himself and everything around him, that it makes him way more intriguing. But anyway, other than that, because one other thing, it's just the fact that, like, the werewolves we've seen and they've been described as these horrifying man-eating creatures of nightmare, and then you get this guy who's, like, talking like some form of seasoned warrior who's just like, okay, you know, maybe some promise. I'll let you off, and maybe one day you'll be a challenge to me, and we'll get a good battle in here. And I was just like, damn, this guy's pretty cool. But anyway, other than that, though, comment below, thumbs up the video, but friend the like button, subscribe button, check out my other videos. But on that, I appreciate everyone who's already subscribed, and I thank you all for listening. Bye.